When you come out here, it's the same thing. The goal is really to enable you to tap into your deepest self, the full truth of yourself, and then to express that out into the world. When you take your shoes off and you put your foot into the river or the dirt, you just feel different. And that's crazy, but it's true.
When you understand who you truly are and what you're truly capable of, it gives you this self-confidence that is unrivaled. And that self-confidence helps you show up differently, and it helps you reap different rewards. If you can't find joy in a cup of tea in a quiet morning, you'll never find it in a yacht.
Happy birthday to you.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the No Half Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabelko, and I am honored to have you here with me today. This is going to be a real fun episode. From the moment that I saw our guest today, he exudes joy, and his backstory is so very unique. Let me say that, but similar enough that I related to, that chasing the success and having all the material things, and then just taking a step back and saying, like, man, is this really joy? Is this happiness? And to be able to buck the norm and go chase actual joy and actual happiness and receive it and continue to receive it, but not just selfishly receive it, but then go out on a mission to help inspire other people and not just help them so that they are dependent on you as a provider of help in the future, but to be able to inspire and uplift other people. I was like, this is a conversation we need to have. And from the moment I saw our guest today, I was like, this is going to be a fun one. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our guest, The Wiz. Man, The Wiz is how I should refer to you. Yes, that's the preferred name.
Yeah, Wiz the Wizard, yeah.
All right, well, Mr. Wizard, take us away, man. I'm honored to have you here. If you could, just give me a little bit of background about kind of where you're at, because this is probably the most unique background I have ever seen on a podcast. I'll tell you that.
It's a green screen. What do you mean? No, even my wife the other day, she's like, it looks like a green screen, but like you could it's real water. But yeah, so I'm in the jungle, and in the jungle, high up in the mountains, pretty much. So your ears will pop when you come up here, and one of the main things is we call the world of futuring. The best way to quantify, if you like, what we've been able to create here is this spot, this space is similar to Rick Rubin's thing. Like, people go to his spot to make music, and they just, I guess, I don't know how they really feel, but it seems like they feel like they're able to really be themselves and get the best version possible. And when you come out here, it's the same thing. The goal is really to enable you to tap into your deepest self, the full truth of yourself, and then to express that out into the world. So what we're really wanting to create here is a place for creatives to come and create, right? So that's where I am, and this is where we create.
I love that. It's definitely unique, I'll tell you that, but I feel like it's something that's necessary. And I was having a conversation this morning with a good friend about just the heaviness of everything going on in the world right now, between politics and natural disasters, and just there's so much heaviness going on. And I really feel like what you've created there, the ability to go and just sort of remove yourself from that and just be one with nature and sort of just find your true self a little bit and kind of peel back the layers. Do you think that's really sort of the most of the benefit of people being able to find their true self in that environment?
Yeah, that's great. So we call it jungle therapy right now. And so we've got, basically, it's about a 5-day thing, usually Sunday through Friday, where people come down, they fly in from wherever they are in the world. And the word that's working right now is living indigenously. And the wild thing is, for a lot of years, I still help CEOs, celebrities, Emmy Award winners, 7-figure guys, 9-figure salesmen, with happiness. That's it. And they call me from the private island, they call me from the jet, and they say, Wiz, I've got basically everything, but something's still missing. I'm not quite sure what it is. And it says, no worries, let's go into it. We'll tap into alignment and see what's cooking, see what's going on. So this location is a way to almost supercharge those sessions that we have. So sometimes, I'll work with people typically 8 weeks or so. Some people go on for a year or more. The crazy thing is sometimes people pass away. My best clients tend to pass away because the horrible thing that I hate most is people tend to think about happiness when something bad is happening. And so that tends to be when people start to reach out. So my goal is always, can you please look for this before something horrible happens? You know what I mean? So you can live the rest of your life positive, right? But it's definitely what matters. And the crazy thing is that my degree is in pre-medical exercise physiology. As an actor in Prison Break, you know, all of that stuff that we talked about before I shared with you. And what's going on is this can work hippy dippy or very practical science. And the idea that we are electrons and neutrons and that sort of thing on the periodic table, which most of the people in the West have learned, and then to understand how electricity works, just the phones that we're using right now and your computers, and to connect that to our bodies and being separated from what can discharge those, let's call them ions. So if you want to be a scientific or hippie, when you take your shoes off and you put your foot into the river or the dirt, you just feel different. And that's crazy, but it's true. And the same thing happens when you're in the sun. If there is a piece of glass separating you from the light and then your body, the same vitamin D does not come through. This is just science. So when you get out and you allow all that sun to touch all of your skin, there is no concern for cancer. There's no concern for cancer in Central America, South America, Africa. What's really going on if you just look at the science? And I'm not trying to be conspiracy-ist about it, but then we look into how we're eating. And people say you are what you eat. My degree is physiology. So when you look at DNA transcriptionase and you look at the way the body has to metabolize and alter the DNA from one organism to another just so it could work in you, if you remove those steps, it creates a much higher level of efficiency. So when you eat the food that's growing in the dirt that your feet touch, the whole thing becomes cyclical. And when you notice that your brain calms down because there's no more noise, that's where you are. That's where your ideas are. That's where your money is. So if you're doing well now, just 10 and 50x that. That's what I focus on helping people to do.
Yeah, I love that. And to me, it makes so much sense. Like, you know, especially when you can remove the noise and just get back to sort of our natural element. This is really where we came from. Right? We didn't, you know, if we weren't created in the environment that we live, but we surround ourselves with all these creature comforts and things that we think are helping us to keep us comfortable, right? But going back into our natural state makes so much freaking sense to me. But it seems like most people look at it as such a crazy idea. And I think, I'm sure you've probably had people come to you and you know, they look for a quick solution. They look for some magic pill. They look for, you know, some dude in a suit who's going to sell them a course because he's an online guru.
Right.
And they think that's the traditional method of reaching true success and true happiness. And I love what you're doing is actually just embracing the authenticity of it and like how this is really how we were meant to be. So especially when you said, you know, people come to you so late in the game. You know, I think that's something that I've been fortunate enough to receive early, and so have you, that understanding of like the traditional success, right? Chasing the house, chasing the cars, chasing the bank account isn't what success feels like. And so the work that you're out there doing right now to get these people to understand that and continue to have conversations like this where we can spread that message about, hey, there's a better way to do this, that you don't have to wait until you're on your deathbed to realize real success. And I honor you for that because I know it's not easy.
You know, and it's wild that the studies show that our bodies were made to be 85% of the time outdoors, which is crazy. So the wild thing is that people, when they look at this as extreme, it's like, a buddy of mine got a very large penthouse, it costs quite a bit, if you like. And then I was there with him and we were talking, and it was like, the idea that I'm the one that's extreme is just funny because this person has spent a retarded amount of money to create a box that they live in. So they now live in this box. And the cool part was, it's not cool, but the interesting part is inside of this box, there were different problems that came up. So because there's no wind flow, they have to have air conditioning and fans. Because they have to have fans and air conditioning, they have to have electricity. Because of the electricity, we've got potential fire hazards. Because of fire hazards, we've got what are the I don't know what it's called, the fire smoke detector thing.
Yep.
And because of that, and the box they're closed in on, so nothing gets damaged indoors, the windows stay closed, so you don't waste energy. Because the windows stay closed, there's mildew spots that get in because, on the island, there's a lot more moisture. So because of this is crazy. Because of the moisture, they have to buy dehumidifiers. Because of the dehumidifiers, when the electricity goes out, then the smell in this beautiful house is a little bit more moldy. Because of the mold, they have to buy plants. Because it gets crazy, right? So then I'm like listening to this and it's like, what? I feel like it's a crazy pill, And I'm not even against money at all. You just need to understand what it is and how to use it. But it definitely doesn't help out with happiness. So what you want to do is you want to get all the noise out, clear all that up, figure out who you are, understand how you want to go about accomplishing that, providing value, then go ahead with that understanding, you're happy. So Harvard studies show that when you're in a happy state, you're 10% more intelligent. So you're naturally going to have a leading edge on any one of your competitors. But by that point, you realize there's no competition. So then you can go and create what you need to create. The income is there. You've got loads of money, but it's not affecting your happiness at all. But it's enabling your ability to output more of what you're actually doing. That's the way you can still have however much money you want, but we don't have the aggressive pursuit of comfort, which is what people account, I forget the percentage of disease to, the aggressive pursuit of that. So that's the way you can, so I'm not saying come to the jungle and money doesn't matter. No, make as much money as you want. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that you fundamentally understand who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I especially like the concept that people are really just buying more expensive problems. Like buying that more expensive penthouse, they're just buying more expensive problems. Because there's really no fundamental difference between that or just a small 2-bedroom house that they can just be a little bit more efficient in, that maybe is a little bit more cost effective, that doesn't have all this other crazy stuff. But then they can allocate that money to taking vacations with their family or sewing it back into their community or other things. And I love how you said it. Like, especially all those things, they're really just more and more complicated, and ultimately comes back to having nature in your house rather just why don't you go outside into nature in the first place? All you've done was complicate your life and make it harder to actually do it.
Right. And the crazy thing to that is when you complicate the life, that requires mind space. And so when you're in a particular situation or home or complicated environment, your mind is thinking about this particular person you have to employ or hire. It doesn't matter what percentage of your income that represents. That doesn't really matter. What matters is the complexity of the situation you're in. So now, while your mind space is going towards complicated, very low-level problems, you're not solving the higher value problems. So that's the whole problem, is like all of the distraction is costing you so much more than you realize. So what we want to do is reduce the complexity, get rid of all the complications, create from a place of, we'll call it authenticity, clarity, mental clarity. Oh, that's everything. Create from that place, and then we can reintroduce whatever we'd like from a different place. And that way we know everything is more simply allocated.
Right.
And then continue. That's what we want to do.
And so let me ask you this. Do you think, or do you know, if there's a tangible difference between someone who is starting to spend more time in nature, who's starting to eat more whole foods straight from the earth, with their clarity, their work output, where maybe they don't need to necessarily sell their condo and go live in the jungle, but even if they start making micro adjustments where they start to spend more time outdoors, they start to eat less processed foods, they start to eat more whole, they start to just shift more, less complications and more natural, right? Do you think that there's a tangible one-to-one benefit where they're starting to see their happiness grow, their business grow, things just start to flow more naturally?
1 to 20. Absolutely. Without question. I live in the jungle, but my thing is like, it's not, I don't do this so people don't have to, but it's like, this is my alignment. I live here, so you don't have to. You know what I mean? So I want to distill all of that out. So absolutely, body pains go away, back pains go away, marriages get fixed. What else? Finances go up, mental clarity increases. What do you stagnant? Like there are different ideas that people had in mind to do, and then also understanding the clarity of which one they should focus on. All of that is a direct result of incorporating. Really, the experience is the fastest way to get there, right? So, talking on the phone, coaching people, that sort of thing, that gets people there. Sometimes in 2 sessions, whatever. You can see things really quickly. Sometimes a couple of weeks. But when you come out, it's almost like a shot, just a, you know what I mean? That's a really, really fast track way to do it. But yeah, absolutely. And I think that no drugs. I'm not into drugs at all. No judgment, but I just don't like that. And I don't like altering any of this that way. So I'm super not into that. So, but I've had clients say who did shrooms or that sort of thing. This call was like when I did shrooms on the beach that one time. So like perfect, if we can get that without the drugs, that's cool. I like that,
Right.
You got a lot of people who want to do ayahuasca stuff. Those people are coming out, so absolutely just reconnecting to yourself, man.
Yeah. And I have not done any drugs, so I can't really speak this with any authority. Maybe you and I are not the best to speak on this, but like, I feel like a lot of that, and one of the reasons why people do that is to get rid of the noise and get back to their natural self.
For sure.
Right. So like you could have this benefit without any of the side effects by just starting to actually live in a much more natural way. I love that so much. I'm curious your perspective on capacity, self-sufficiency, because for you, if you have a problem, you're not going to go call up like the appliance repair guy in the tree next to you. Like you've got to be self-sufficient to be able to actually provide for yourself and live your life there. And I'm curious, when people put themselves in that environment and they realize maybe they're a little bit too dependent on the people around them to solve their problems, and they realize they are more capable than they thought they were. Do you have that experience with people?
Yeah, that's a powerful situation. So I'm very much into crypto, DeFi, that sort of thing. I've been into since 2011. So the thing about it is it's all about everything is your fault. And that's a thing that Westerners have a very hard time being okay with. But if you can understand, my father was 21 years military. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you can understand literally everything is your fault, if you can get to that, you can have happiness and accomplish what you want to accomplish better and more efficiently and quicker. Because that's the fundamental part of all of this. Everything is your fault. Whatever happened, however horrible it is, however not horrible it is. And I've had some really bad things happen with clients, myself and then other clients that, rape, and that can get into a thing. How is that my fault? Well, we have to break it down. It's a sensitive topic as to where that comes in, especially when they're children. How do you work that out? That's a tough one. So it's not, so like when I say everything is your fault, there's a way to process that information in that statement. So at the topical level, let's just use it really generically. I got my foot in the river. I'm making sure it's just, I got like 20 fish. I'll show you, there's eating on me, but in a good way, like nibbling. Anyway, so the thing with this is that with alignment and happiness, when you understand that you are the source of it, that is your freedom. That's your freedom. You don't have to rely on a government or a people or a neighbor or a doctor or anything. When you understand that you have the answers are not outside of you. So all of that is a byproduct of stepping into the jungle, but really stepping into your you. So in the jungle, it just facilitates that because, I have a lot of children. I've got 7 of them and they were born at home. And then I delivered them. It was not a midwife, but it was me. And then, me and my wife and myself. And so going through that, it's like, well, what if people always say, what if this went wrong? That's not responsible. That's not this. Something is only a risk or not responsible if you are not up to that level. So when you've got a professional poker player, he's not gambling. If you are starting a business and you're not educated, you're gambling. If you try to get a job for your security, you're gambling. And someone else is in control of your happiness in your life. So what we want to do is we want to decrease the gambling, increase your competency, show yourself what you can do. Because a lot of times we're so afraid that we never see how capable we actually are. And once you begin to see that, and you start to see that you already have all the answers, oh, that's happiness, that's power, that's everything. And my father always said, if someone could talk you into something, someone else can talk you out of it. So everything that I do, my goal is never to tell anybody anything. My goal is to create that environment so that you can tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself, because that's the stuff that'll stick.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, it really speaks to people being able to find out their authentic self and what they're really capable of. And I always feel like when you understand who you truly are and what you're truly capable of, it gives you this self-confidence that is unrivaled. And that self-confidence helps you show up differently, and it helps you reap different rewards. And it becomes this positive cycle that keeps building on itself. And you become even more capable, even more powerful, even more confident. And, I just love how you said that, because it's such a, I don't want to call it hack. It's such an amazing tool for people to understand really how capable they are and how much net positive comes from living that out every day, right? Not just, hey, that one time where you felt like, oh, cool, I did a thing, yay me. But like every day you start to see these little things improving yourself. Man, it's amazing to see, and I wish everyone could have that experience. I think it's so cool.
I mean, it even starts, with your little ones. My littlest one, she just turned 2, but then my other one, she's 3. And both of them, like if we're going over, they climb excellently over all these rocks and everything. They'll climb up that right there. There's a whole climb up through the waterfall. They knock that out. Especially my 3-year-old will knock that out. And sometimes there's spots where I got to sling her onto my back. And then they've known since little, hold on, because if you let go, that's on you. And that starts at 2 and 3 years old. A lot of people are like, oh no, it's a kid. No, I'm not saying that we're similar to the monkeys, but the way to develop their strength, their own confidence, their own psychological fortitude is to show them everything they're capable of already doing. So hold on, you got it? You good? All right, because we're climbing, you want to make sure that you got a good grip, and we'll climb. And then it's like, if there's an issue, go ahead and communicate with me. Papa, I'm slipping. Okay, cool. We could pause for a moment. No problem with that. Effective communication, not panic. Yelling, crying, screaming, that's inefficient. And that invites other danger, whether it be something that you don't want to hear you in the jungle, or even other humans that you don't want to hear you if you ever come across that at some point in their life. That's the same idea. So make sure you got emotional control. You're responsible for holding on to me. Like, look at what that develops. And then a client, like, he came out to the jungle and he saw my kids just navigating, and he was like, that is incredible. They're so comfortable. They're so competent, and that's what you want to build. Like, what kind of human does that develop at such an early age?
Right. Yeah. And how cool is that for them, that's normal.
I know.
They get to grow up with that being a normal thing, where they understand responsibility of self and how to actually conduct themselves in these kind of environments. And if they find themselves in a situation where they need to rely on themselves, they've got umpteen years of doing that, so they're comfortable doing that. And I want to go back to just what you said there about that experience of you climbing that with them on your back. There is so much good stuff to unpack from that. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest with you, but like just the illustration of you knowing that journey, right? It might be new and it might be scary for them, but they're with you on that journey, and they're comfortable in their ability to cling to you. Right? They're comfortable in their knowledge of you for how far you've gone, and you've been able to push the limits. So you're able to kind of guide them through that, where they don't necessarily have to trust all these little individual parts, but they trust you because they've built that relationship, and you have that open communication. Especially, I love where you talked about the communication part, right? And I think you mentioned a couple of times things you've learned from your dad. And I take it, this is a guess, but I take it you had a pretty good relationship with your dad, and he was impactful on you and where you're at now. I'm curious on how that's helped to shape you and your relationship with your kids. Because I think strong fathers who are present, fathers who are there for the little things, not just being able to provide, but being able to show them, hey, here's how you navigate difficult terrain, whether that's physically climbing up a mountain or it's, some difficult social situation, whatever it is. I'm just curious on your perspectives on showing up as a strong father.
We give our power over to so many people and to so many things. It could be things that we own or have or people or whatever it might be. And those are choices. Once you understand those are choices, you can either stop making the choice or continue to make the choice, but it's your choice. So now you got a level of freedom. And my father, I learned that big time with him. Every person was the same. The idea that this guy puts his pants on the same way you put your pants on, that quote, that and I got that from him. And my father, I'm taller. I'm 6'3". My father was 5'9", but I remember my children sincerely. I don't remember if I or one of my children thought that he and myself were the same height. And I just looked at my wife and I was like, that's incredible. Because his energy was like, so, you know what I mean? And that was his energy. It was like that it affected you. And I remember when I was in 9th grade, 10th grade, I think it was 10th grade, and I played football. I was a starting receiver. And I didn't want to play anymore. I was just like, I was good, but it didn't energize me, And I remember wanting to stop. And the coaches were like really recruiting me, and they really didn't want me to stop because it affected the school and the team. And I broke a school record in track, you know what I mean? And so then here goes the situation. And my father, I didn't even think about having my dad do it for me. That was nowhere in my psyche. And that must have been how he raised me as well. But he did come to school with me after school. I remember he came with me almost like to support me or something. And I had to go in and deliver this talk to the head coach and this coach and the receivers coach, offensive coach, myself. And already at that age, I was speaking to grown men who were intimidating in a way where I had to maintain my own self-respect. And that's extended itself to police officers, judges, sales presentations, business things, podcast interviews, women. It doesn't matter. That's because of what my father helped me to do for myself. Was the best way I would say that, by allowing me to do that, right? And not stepping in there for me. And another thing I would say, my biggest thing is alignment, which means I don't judge people, and that's my dad. My father just didn't care what he did. He didn't care about any of that. All he cared about was, I guess, the truth. And so when people talk with me, they feel like I'm not necessarily judging them. And that's from my dad. My dad loved basketball, but he didn't care. He liked when I played basketball, but anything I wanted to do, it didn't matter to him as long as I was happy. Like, it literally didn't matter. And I remember, I don't like weapons. I do martial arts since I was 6 years old, but there's a one point where it was a dangerous situation. And I remember thinking for a moment, and I don't like guns at all, but I remember thinking for a moment, I think maybe I'll just get a gun. And my father was artillery in the military, so he shot the very large cannons, and he went to war in the 90s and stuff. And whatever I want to do, whatever. But he said, son, I said, Pops, this is what I'm thinking about. And he said, son, whatever you want to do. I said, I'm just going to say one thing, and then that's it. Bullets don't come back. That's all he said. That was it. And that's how it was. And I said, got it. And he wasn't saying for me to do that. He was just saying the part that he felt he needed to say, and that he literally didn't care what I did with that information. Didn't care. Either way, he loved me. Either way, no matter what I did, son, just want to let you know, you're my son. I love you. That's it. That was his standard. And so that's the way I parent all my children. I don't care what you do. You could ask me a question. I'll give you my feedback. If you want to do something crazy, if you want me to be there with you, cool. I prefer that. You might feel better about it. And that has extended itself into dangerous things they want to do. Because all of my children skateboard since they're 7 hours old. I got my youngest one on the board when she was 7 hours old. And I said, my kids will say, hey, Dad, can I do this? Can I jump this ramp? Can I drop in? Can I whatever? And I said, I don't know. Can you? And that's for real. I don't know. Can you? Right? And so, because if you don't think you can do it, then you're going to do something stupid, or you're going to be afraid, or you're going to be concerned. You're going to hesitate. And that's what makes it dangerous. Right. So once they say, yeah, I can. Cool. Would you stand over there? Sure. And in my brain, I might still have the butterflies. I might still be terrified, but I don't let any of that come out, because that's their life. And I'm here to support and give whatever my feedback might be. You might want to lean forward. I don't even want to say because the handlebar could go through your face. I don't want to say that because then that puts it in their mind. Just go ahead and lean forward. I think that'll help. Either way, I got you. That's it. So that's how I parent. That's how I coach. That's how my dad parented me. That's it.
Yeah. I think that takes a lot of self-restraint to not project your fears and your understanding of reality on them, because they're still figuring out what reality really is. Right? For so many of us, our understanding of reality and the frame in which we view it is based on the things that we were told the yes or no to as kids. Right? So, I think that's such an important thing to be able to control yourself and give your kids, or someone you're coaching. I think it's really one and the same at that point. The perspective of, I don't know, can you? Just because I may not be able to, or I may have this certain perspective on it from how I grew up or my experiences, doesn't mean you are destined or chained to that same experience. And I think that takes a lot of self control to be able to hold that back and let them live their own life, and let them sort of do dangerous things carefully. And I think that's one of the best parenting advices I've ever gotten, was support your kids and let them do dangerous things carefully. Like, you don't want them to be in a position where they're going to be, in risk of death unnecessarily. But you're willing to let them try and skateboard or try and do something else, because if they get a little bit hurt, they're going to learn their limits, right? They're not going to be afraid of this or that. But I do also want to go back to, the advice from your father about bullets don't come back. I think that's such good advice, not just for guns and physical bullets, but the words we say.
Right.
And I think that we need to understand that as men, is that a lot of times I've seen, I'm not saying this was the case for you, but a guy will feel nervous or incapable on his own, or whatever it is, and they'll go get a gun, and it'll give them that sense of security. Like, now somehow they are more capable than they were before. Right? And they lean on that
right
tool, and it gives them this false sense of who they really are, and they lean on that a little bit too strong to solve the problem that should have been done a different way. Right? Just because you have it in your toolkit doesn't mean it's the right tool.
For sure.
And I see in a lot of scenarios,
it's just like money.
Yeah.
Money works the same way. It's like, if you can't do it without money, then giving you more money is not going to work. Like, you have to solve that problem so you're fundamentally capable. At that point, we can layer as much money as we want on top of it.
Yeah.
But you've got, because we already know by the studies that the lottery winners, they go back to what they made after 12 months, sometimes 24 months. We already know this stuff. And it's the same thing. There's no gun. There's no money. There's no clothes. There's none of that that's going to help if you haven't dealt with yourself. And it's hard to deal with yourself. So I get it. But that's why we've got high performers who have taken that scary road, to really master themselves. That's the only way.
Yeah, one of the quotes I heard was, if you can't find joy in a cup of tea in a quiet morning, you'll never find it in a yacht. And it made me think much in the same way. Like, if you can't find joy in the little things, right, you're never going to find joy in more. You got to be able to find joy in less, in your authentic self, right? And going out to the jungle and being by yourself in that moment of quiet, in that moment of what most people call discomfort, but back in your natural element. Like, if you can't find joy in nature, in peace, in solitude, you're never going to find it in a bigger house, a nicer car, more money in the bank. It's just not going to happen. And I think that there's so many people who have the wrong conversation, whether it's on social media or in person, because they use that to sell people more stuff that they don't need. right? Rather than people who are out here like yourself who are saying like, hey man, you don't need that stuff. You're not out here saying, hey, look how beautiful my house is, look how nice my car is. You are out here showing your joy. I see a picture on your Instagram holding a bunch of bananas, the way someone would pose in front of their Lamborghini. And the joy that came from you in that picture, like I think that's what people are missing, is that it's not like what you're standing in front of, it's what's inside of you that really counts.
That's funny. That's funny you say that. That's true. Those bananas, that was like 50 pounds of bananas. And it was so crazy. And I've got something I'm writing called Wisdom from the Jungle, WIZDOM, like the wizard. And because the things that you start to learn it's crazy. And I am barefoot and stuff like that. And these bananas, it's like, I didn't even like bananas growing up. Okay. So it's not like I like bananas, but these bananas don't taste like whatever you grew up with. I don't know what's happening. So they they just don't taste like what you think bananas taste like. And then the way you feel, it's crazy too. It doesn't feel like there's a glycemic blood index spike. It doesn't feel like there's definitely not a drop because of the how do you call it, the species that's been bred to have a higher sugar content. They don't have a banana E type taste. The texture is different, and you've got energy, and it makes you feel satiated and actually full and connected to the ground, and the mental clarity is there. So when you look at those bananas, oh my gosh, it represents a lot of stuff that literally money couldn't actually buy. Because somebody could say, hey, can I give you these bananas, or I don't know, $1,000 or $10,000. You might think, well, with $1,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, I could go and buy those bananas. No, you couldn't. You couldn't. Like, I guess you could offer it to somebody to get it from their yard, or you can get some seeds, but you'd have to grow it and take time. But it's just different. And you begin to realize what Warren Buffett talks about. And he says, I don't want, like, cash is useless. The only utility it serves, so they talk about crypto and it doesn't have utility, neither does cash, is if you were to light it on fire in the jungle. So which one would he prefer? It's land or cash. It's fear is why he's able to have a couple $1 billion. Like, you have to get to the spot in order to then know how to use that particular tool. But yeah, so those bananas in the different things that we get and we eat, I would say that I'm equally as surprised as the people watching what I'm showing. It's like, does that make sense? So like,
yes,
hey, let's hippy dippy stuff at all, but it's not like, hey, your whatever chocolate does this and let's connect to the, like, that's cool. But I'm equally surprised. Like, I don't eat meat, but I remember when I stopped, this is a long time ago, like 10 plus years, I remember thinking, I'm probably going to die in 3 days. Like, I don't know what's going to, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's no way you can live not eating, like that. And so I think the cool part is I'm equally surprised every day, every time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes from having a childlike wonder and joy. Like when you look at kids, if you gave a bunch of bananas to a kid, they would be excited about a bunch of bananas because it's different, it's new, it's exciting. It's not like you give it to a bunch of adults. Most of them would say like, yeah, I don't care about that. Go make me a banana smoothie or get the heck out of here. But
right, that's true.
But there's so much joy in children because they're not burdened by all those preconceived notions or all that stuff. And I think that there's a lot of beauty in the ability to be an adult, but operating with the joy and wonder of a child. Like to be able to remove all that stuff off your life and operate your everyday with that same level of being able to see magic. Like you see kids, you've got a 2-year-old kid, they believe in all of this magic in the world. And it saddens me when you get to be an adult and somehow you stop. Like to be able to be that same seer of magic as a 2-year-old kid and as an adult, that's success, man. I believe that wholeheartedly.
That's beautiful. My daughter, there's plenty of stars out here, yeah. And I was holding her the other night, and we usually go to bed before it's that dark, but I think she took a nap or something because she was still awake. And so she said, Papa, this is so amazing. She said, how can I pick up a star? Like, why can't I pick it up? Because there's a lot and they're pretty bright, here. And so I was like, and I say to her my thought process while I'm having it. So I said, First of all, that's an incredible question. Second of all, people say that the stars are fire, and we know fire is hot. So I guess theoretically, a usual answer would be that we're too far away, or that it's too hot for our skin. That's what people would usually say. And I'm saying all of this to her, you know? And I says, but I don't know. I don't know if that's what I would say right now. That's a really great question. And she said, maybe with the latter. And I said, oh, that's gorgeous. And I look at my wife and I was like, I got to write this story. So I went and I wrote a story. It's called Future. So I wrote it and I started to write a story about how can I pick up a star? And I just went into this. And then I was like, with the ladder. And I said, and then the story ends with the same type of question. And it says, I'm not sure, maybe you can. Because maybe she can. You know, maybe she can. I don't know how it works, you know, what will happen or how many years later, or we got a lot of technology we didn't have before. So what will be when she's older if she does go to space and all of a sudden like, no, you could pick up a star. We always believe, fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
And she can still have that and be on the front end of that because I didn't shut it down because I haven't tried to touch a star. Why can I tell her whether she can touch a star or not? Like, I don't have the firsthand experience. You know, I can only tell her, like, here's what we learn about gases, liquids, and solids. Here's what we think. This is the temperature we think it's at. Here's why that might be supported. But the truth is, I don't actually know. Maybe we can go find out. You know, and so I guess what you're saying is exactly that. And so allowing your mind to stay open, knowing everything.
Right.
Because that when your mind seals up and closes up like that, oh my gosh, that's stupidity. Like, you can't learn anymore.
Yeah. And I love that.
You know, and learning is where the happiness is. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that her first reaction was to think of another possible solution. Like, her first instinct is, well, what if we get a ladder? Right? It was to look for another way to get the thing done, not to just say, oh man, I can't do it. Poor me. I'm destined for a life of average. Her first option was, well, how do we find another path forward? I love that.
Right. Me too. I agree. That was great.
Yeah, we need more of that as adults. I'll tell you that for sure.
Right.
Man, this has been absolutely phenomenal conversation. And I usually ask a few questions to follow up and just kind of hammer the point home. But I don't know that I could really hammer it home better than that. I feel like the level of joy, the level of wonder, and the level of just authenticity that you bring is amazing. And man, I want to congratulate you for who you are and continuing to just be that person and show up for people and be an example of what's possible when you really just let go of the excuses and just live a life of authenticity. Because now we need a lot more people like you in this world. So I just want to congratulate you for the work that you do and honor you for that. And any way that we can support you in that, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to back with you and that we had this. Thank you.
Me too, brother. Listen, be safe out there, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the near future.
Okay. Sounds well.
Thank you.
Bye.